Mild-mannered Clark Kent of the kitchen, but he was focused, using the time to perfect his own rhymes.
He listened to his own music back there, and I didn't realize that until I actually listened to it. I realized it was him.
He'd listen to the music he had wrote earlier that day. Sometimes, like toward the end of the night, he'd ask us to listen to some of the music, ask our opinions on it.
He gave me one of his demos, so I have that and I listened to it, and I thought it was pretty good.
You didn't expect that kind of stuff to come out, and it wasn't as hardcore as what it is now on the albums.
The words in his music are not at all what he is.
With his dark side alter ego Slim Shady already making an appearance while he was working at Gilbert's Lodge, things really started happening for Eminem.
Then he kept telling me, you know, he was going to fly out to LA or New York, and he was gone a lot. He started being gone a lot at that point.
He really believed in himself. His friends believed in him. You don't expect somebody to become an overnight sensation.
But today, only a couple of years after grilling burgers, Eminem is now one of the hottest acts on the planet. And what do his former workmates think of his music now?
Now I like it. I have some of his CDs, and now I like it.
I listen to some of it. The kids next door, they play it all the time, all the time.
Eminem may have Grammys, MTV Awards and platinum discs on his wall, but to Sherry, he's still the same guy.
To me, he's still Marshall. It's just, he just has a lot more money now. And more tattoos.
Although he didn't know it at the time, the creation of his alter ego, the now famous Slim Shady, was the turning point for Eminem. With this new character, Eminem began to explore the dark side of his fantasies that had been festering since his days at school. It seems that he hadn't really explored the alter ego until things reached rock bottom after the failure of Infinite and his split with wife Kim. All the anger and frustration of the last 24 years found its voice through Slim Shady, and the raps that made up the Slim Shady EP changed everything for Marshall and the millions of people around the world who were about to become his fans.
We recorded the Slim Shady EP, and as soon as we recorded that, I was doing shows, getting little gigs around Detroit, in the Detroit area, little club gigs and things like that. And everything just started picking up. Like, you know, the tape started selling. There was a buzz. I would walk into clubs. People would automatically know who I was. I started making like a pretty big name for myself, like locally.
While the EP had made Eminem an underground star, he still wasn't getting the respect he thought he deserved. Although critics considered that he was hot, Eminem had only gained a runners-up place at the annual Rap Olympics in LA. He was beginning to feel that despite his now recognised talent, it was never going to be possible for him to be taken seriously as a white boy in the world of rap.
We went out to LA and we started putting it in the stores, and I had been out there a few months before and took second place in a rap competition called the Rap Olympics. And I had gave my tape to this kid named Dean Geislinger, real young kid at the time. He was like 18. I gave it to him, and I was pissed because I lost the battle. I took second place in the battle, and I really thought I should have took first. So he wanted the tape from me, so I kind of gave him a copy of the Slim Shady EP, thinking, yeah, whatever, you know, take the tape. I don't care who you are. I'd been around by so many labels. And then come to find out, 2 months later, 3 months later, while we was out in L.A., all of a sudden we get a call from Jimmy Iovine and Dre himself saying, we want to meet with you, we like your tape. So I guess that's how it went down. Then I met him like 2 days later. I met with him at the Interscope offices, and that's when I realized like this was actually happening.
The initial meeting with Dre was much better than Eminem could ever have imagined. After kicking around some ideas, Dre asked Eminem to stay in Los Angeles for another week so that they could spend some time in the studio together. Dre was so impressed with Eminem that he signed him up to his own Aftermath Records label. For Marshall, the chance to work with one of the biggest and most influential names in rap was something that didn't need consideration. Now, thanks to Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers was going somewhere.
the EP is what actually got me the deal with Dr. Dre. I don't know, it was just different. It seemed like on Infinite, I was rhyming big words, but I wasn't really expressing myself, and I wasn't really expressing how I felt. You know, I wasn't putting my life into my music.
Eminem had been talented enough to write material that connected, and now, purely by luck, he had hooked up with Dre after he had found the tape on the floor at the home of Interscope Records boss, Jimmy Iovine. But would things have been different if Dre hadn't picked up that tape and got behind Eminem? Would he still have become the worldwide phenomenon that he is today without the rap legend's backing?
I want to say yes, but knowing the music world like I do, I don't think it would have. I think his perseverance is what got him to the level to be successful or not. But I think his affiliation with Dr. Dre and that label, and as powerful as Dr. Dre is what allowed worldwide exposure of his music. You can only do so much as an individual in the music world. I mean, you need a huge distribution company, a huge group of promoters, or a big label for radio to stand up and say, oh my God, let's play this record. Especially if you're a Caucasian rapper talking about the kind of stuff he talks about. So I think he was influential in getting him worldwide exposure. I don't think he affected his style at all, and I don't think he affected getting there. It's not like he found him somewhere in some small town. Eminem had busted his butt to get noticed by him.
Once in the studio, Dre put his magical production talents into operation. They worked together at a hectic rate and laid down some of the tracks that would later feature on the Slim Shady LP. Not only did Dre produce the album, but he also features on several tracks including Forget About Dre, Guilty Conscience, and the first single, My Name Is.
You know, I met Dr. Dre, he was cool. I got in the studio with him the same week. We did like 4 songs in 6 hours, something like that. And one of those songs was Hi, My Name Is. And there was just an instant chemistry there, I think, with me and Dre that I think he told me he hadn't seen since like Snoop Dogg, that as to where we were able to bang out songs just like, you know.
Despite the sudden excitement of his studio sessions with Dre and the taste of the glitzy LA lifestyle, he still found time to call Uncle Todd back home.
I knew that it would happen if he didn't give up. He had given up once, he quit. His mother pushed him back out to do it. But I had known from where I was at that he was going to do it. It was not like a vision, but it was something like just someone in the family will make it, and it's going to be him. I knew it. I knew it before he ever knew it. When he called me from LA and said, Uncle Todd, I made it. You wouldn't believe it. He told me all these stories about the hotels and the girls and all the publicity and everything, the stunts and the shoots, and it was great. I knew he would make it. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind.
The first single to be released from his collaboration with Dre was My Name Is. It became a huge hit across the world, and almost overnight, Eminem went from being an underground rapper to a full-on star. It's not what he'd expected.
I was surprised, when My Name Is blew up. I didn't know exactly what it was going to do. I mean, this was my first time, actually doing this or whatever. It was my first time exposed to the public, and I never considered myself anything more than an underground artist. You know what I'm saying? Just because of the subject matters I talk about and the way that I rap or whatever, the things that I talk about, I thought, I was surprised, to be honest.
The fact that My Name Is became a huge seller across the world may have been a surprise to Mathers, but others thought it had mega hit written all over it.
Kids were going to love it. You knew that because, here's this guy. He's talking dirty. He's saying things that you never think about saying.
The success of My Name Is was quickly followed by the equally massive Guilty Conscience and a chart-topping album. Each time Eminem was going further out there, pushing the boundaries, gaining more fans and upsetting others. There'd be no sellout to success.
I don't feel like I have to compromise my style for nobody. Just because MTV or BET might pick up on a video, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. If my shit does have some type of mass appeal to it, then that's good. You know what I'm saying? It reaches a wider audience, but I don't try to compromise myself for nobody.
His attitude was accurately summed up with his next single, The Way I Am. Eminem was by now a phenomenon, saying things that other rappers didn't, in a way that was unique.
what separates him both from people around Detroit and from other rappers. His ability to adopt his voice to different characters, and as well as to create those characters, it's really much more of a whole package than you find in many rappers.
This multi-personality schizophrenic world of Slim Shady was starting to get complicated. Marshall Mathers, Eminem, or Slim Shady? Just who was making the music? Would the real Slim Shady please let us know what was going on?
The concept of the whole song was, you know, trying to say that there's a Slim Shady in all of us. Everybody has a shady side to him. So in the video, I'm asking, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? And everybody's standing up in the video because everybody's got a Slim Shady in them. I said that a long time ago when I came out with my first album. I feel like everybody has a shady side to them, and a side to them where they can begin.
When Eminem created Slim Shady and began to explore his dark side alter ego in his lyrics, he really started to connect with people across the world. But the violence, rape and murder in his lyrics have outraged as many people as they have won over. His concerts have been the focus of protests by gay rights groups, claiming that he is homophobic, and women's groups have campaigned to get Eminem banned, alleging that his lyrics advocate violence against women. While Mathers claims that he's just telling it like it is, nobody would claim that what he says isn't controversial. The argument is just about whether he should be silenced for publicising extreme views.
It's not the music itself, it's the lyrics of the music. It's his misogyny and his homophobia, basically. The way he advocates killing gay people, the way he advocates raping women, etc. I just find it offensive.
Much of Eminem's fan base is made up of young, impressionable kids, mostly young men. This is the same demographic that accounts for the vast majority of hate crimes perpetuated against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in this country every day.
Whatever campaign groups are saying, Eminem has managed to convince many of the world's top stars that he shouldn't be silenced, even if they don't agree with everything he's rapping.
I'm an artist, I'm an American, I completely support this man's right to say what he feels and wants to. How can me ever say you can't say that?
And it's very simple, he just wants, you know, like a lot of rappers, they want to, you know, be allowed like a playwright, like a screenwriter, the ability, you know, to not have to write in the first person, you know? It's like, you know, they're just writing stories and enacting them, you know? It's like medieval, it's like your very own British tradition, you know? Go back there, go back into, you know, the old murder ballads and stuff like that. You know, Johnny Cash shot a man in Reno just to see him die. People didn't go, Johnny Cash wants to shoot somebody, you know what I mean? Give us a break.
Slim has his own views on the controversies surrounding his music.
Regardless of how many units I sell, the subject matter and the topics that I rap about are still underground. You know what I'm saying? They're still raw. I don't try to, you know, polish up my shit for nobody. I don't, you know, I tell it like it is. And when you buy a Slim Shady album, you're gonna get Slim Shady. You're not gonna get birds and bees and flowers and trees.
When I listen to Eminem, I listen to Eminem with the same mindset that I do watching a movie. You know, it's almost saying, you know, it's almost watching a horror movie and saying, oh, it's too much violence. You know, it's a horror movie. Eminem is a hardcore MC. He's supposed to be hardcore.
Eminem's lyrics generate enormous passions among his fans and enemies, but there is the possibility that he's just trying to wind people up.
I think he's not being a role model. You take it literally if you want to take it literally. I think he's a performer. I think he's doing a lot of it for shock value. And even if he does feel anger against the gay community, doesn't like this community, doesn't like his mother, you can express that any way you want as long as you don't act it out. I don't think it's in him to act it out. I think he's expressing it, getting it off his chest, and I think half of it's tongue-in-cheek. I think half of it is just to get a rise out of people. And so he's probably sitting there laughing, going, yep, I'm getting them pissed off. That's exactly what I wanted to do.
You listen to this stuff and you're just going, Wow. Okay, and each successive song takes you in some different, dark, unbelievably strange and dirty place. I think in Eminem's case, he is primarily an entertainer. He's a dark entertainer. He views himself as, when I've interviewed him, what he does, he feels he does dark humor. You know, dark, sick type of humor.
Although his mother didn't find comical references to her and Marshall's songs a joke and launched a lawsuit against him, Uncle Todd says it made him laugh.
I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious to do more pills than your mom does and all that stuff, because the whole world's, you know, like Marilyn Manson said, we're all stars in a dope show. You know, I mean, everyone is. It's on something, whether it's alcohol, aspirin, caffeine, or cigarettes. And to make his mother, though, his little skinny, overprotective mother, you know, the center of all these bashing lyrics, it was just funny to me. It was hilarious.
He's very entertaining to listen to. Even his critics, even the people who lay into him the hardest, always acknowledge what a good rapper he is and what an interesting sounding rapper he is. And that's really very key to the appeal as well.
Eminem may be serious in the views he puts across. He may just be trying to provoke a reaction or even just having a laugh. But whatever the reason, what he has to say has connected with a whole new audience. Kids that were not necessarily into rap music before and didn't recognise the ghetto lifestyle identify with this new slacker hero from the suburbs.
I think a lot of the angst and a lot of the fear and a lot of the pain that he expresses in his lyrics, maybe not to the extreme that he takes them, you know, with the killings and the hating this segment of the community or that segment of the community, but all that's based in fear. And I think a lot of the young people today have that same thing inside them, especially suburban kids. I don't think they have the same form of expression as the inner city kids. And I think a lot of these feelings that they're having, Eminem is able to express, and they can relate to him because they look at him and they say, oh my God, he looks just like me. Or he looks just like the kid down the street.
The change from the lyrical style of the pre-Slim Shady days to the more recent violent and menacing raps did surprise some people who knew Mathers as an ordinary, quiet person. But even they point to his difficult and troubled life as the source of this anger.
I think it was just maybe a lot of deep down anger that he was just trying to get out. It's like his own therapy for himself, to get rid of things that had happened when he was a child or his life.
I can see where some of it comes from, with his mother, with Kim. I don't think it was easy a lot for him. Like I said, he maintained an even keel life on this level, and I'm sure the anger came out in his music, which is better than anger coming out in a lot of different ways with a lot of people.
Thanks to his Uncle Ronnie's influence, Eminem got into rap at an early age, and the acts he grew up listening to had a very real impact on his life. They offered more than just some catchy rhymes. They supplied an attitude, a whole new lifestyle that helped Marshall deal with the troubles in his own life.
I was going through a lot of at home. You know, me and my mother never got along, and it was really rough at home, and it was an outlet for me to... I was going through a period in school where I was failing in school. I hated school because I used to get picked on all the time. I was going through a period, that music right there alone, I think NWA's music made me reach a point where I didn't give up neither, and it helped me come out of my shell at school. It helped me for anybody who was picking on me to fight back. You know what I mean? I ended up standing up for myself, getting in a lot of fights in school, and you know, there was times I would get jumped in my neighborhood, but instead of running, I found myself fighting back a lot. And I think it was a lot of the influence was from their music. It was telling me, you know, don't take no.
Eminem may check Ice-T and NWA as important early rap influences, but Uncle Todd claims he was there first.
In the 1970s, we would go to parties and stand around drinking and shooting guns in the Midwest and have a big bonfire and beer and girls. And for some reason, I don't know, just after so many beers, I would just start rhyming. and making things go together and just rhyming. And the Sugar Hill Gang came out about that time, and my best friend, which was African American, Ed Carey, he would say, hey, you know, you got to hear this, you know. And I was like, yeah, I do my own thing, you know. And that was Sugar Hill Gang was great, but I rhymed too. So whenever I talked to Marshall, I would rhyme to him. I would literally just, you know, make it all go together. Like, hey, little dude, what's been happening? You know, I see your face, and it's not frightening. And just always, he kind of liked that. He'd smile and look at me, and you know, it was like, Uncle Ty, how did you do that? You know, just start putting things together. But the young man has forgotten a lot of his past. He doesn't remember too much. You know, I think he's lost track of what's really important to him.
Virtually every rapper claims to have had a tough, troubled background of abuse, brushes with the law, guns and drive-bys, giving them the street cred that adds extra urban appeal, and Eminem is no exception to this rule. But according to Uncle Todd Nelson, the young Marshall Mathers' background was more sheltered than the publicity machine suggests.
He got into this field of music where I guess you had to come from a real bad lifestyle and neighborhood in order to make it. And so, yes, it turned him against everyone that would tell, you know, how sheltered he was.
Growing up in Detroit makes you hard, and especially growing up in the areas of Detroit he did and the circumstances of his life that he did. And in Detroit, not only can you grow up hard, but you certainly fancy being hard. It's a city where, yeah, it's still a car city, and always will be a car city. It's a shot in a beer auto worker, Friday night fights kind of city, and whether it's romanticized or not, it makes an impact on any artist.